Hey guys, Scott here, and tonight I want to very quickly go over how to adjust playing as the new spirit. I've been playing her on the PTB like for way longer than I normally stay on the PTB because I've been just having a lot of fun with her. I really think the changes they did were awesome, and I'm currently waiting for my pizza to heat up. So very quickly here, 5 minutes, I just want to go over how you need to kind of change your spirit playstyle. If you have played spirit in a certain way, you have to change certain things. So number one, the standstill mind game where you just pretend to use your power and they don't know what you're doing. It doesn't work anymore. Frankly, if you relied on that, then get fucked, I guess. I don't know. It was a really dumb mechanic, and I'm glad that part is removed. But you now have to adjust for a couple things because now when you phase, the person that you're going against is going to immediately know that you're phasing, and they're also going to be able to tell which direction you're going. So say you're at like, we're just talking like just a junk auto haven loop. We'll say like that's one wall. And then this is the pallet right here. And then there's always like kind of like a longer wall. So this is just like a junk car loop or something like that, right? So before the PTB, you'd have spirit right here. Damn it. I'm going to say S for spirit and S for survivor. All right, SC for survivor, SP for spirit. So if you've been in the scenario before, you get to a pallet, but the survivor's got it dropped. So as the old spirit, you would probably just sit there for a second. And the survivor would have to guess when you started phasing. Unless they are part of the select few that can identify the animation reset, which is extremely hard and should not be expected to be a normal thing. So 99.9% of people are not doing that. But so they're basically not going to know when you start phasing. So they have to just guess when to start moving. But you, as the spirit, could just watch them and wait for them to move and then adjust your direction and where you're going to go based on that. Nowadays, it doesn't work because as soon as you start phasing this way, the survivor is going to hear in his ears that you're going to the right, and he's going to be able to adjust. But this is why I actually love the new spirit, because she can actually do mind games now, and you need to know how to actually do it. So what you actually do as spirit now, because they're aware of that you're going to be phasing, so you start going this way, right? And then the audio is going to go to their right, so the survivor naturally is going to go this way. They're going to try to get as far away from the spirit as possible. They might go, this way, but generally they're not going to run this way. They're not going to run directly into the sound because that makes no sense. So when the survivor hears you go in that direction, they're going to go that way. But the thing is, spirit moves so fast that what you can do in this scenario is you can actually condition people to go in a certain direction now because you're actually giving them information that you can abuse. So when you go this way, the survivor goes this way, but you kind of need to know how the audio works. If you're at this point right here, and then the survivor gets to this point right here, the difference between you being here and being here is very unclear. Like the difference between you being like here and, here, based on the survivor's position, is very clear. But if the survivor is right here and the spirit is right here, if the spirit goes up or down, there's almost no panning in your in your headphones. You're not going to tell if she's being able to go, if she's going left or right. So you can use that information to get to this point and then immediately double back and very closely follow this line. You're not going to be able to tell which side of the pallet she's on. It's not clear enough to do that. You can tell if they go left or right when they're in front of you, but you can't differentiate between like 10 degrees of, where they're going. So once you force them into this direction, you double back and I'll just show you like a visual example of what I'm talking about. So basically, I start phasing right here. I start going this way. Quentin immediately hears me going this direction, so he starts going the other direction, and then I quickly phase back this way, and then I run directly into him. And you move so fast that the survivor doesn't really have as much time as you to react, but now they have an option. Now the survivor can actually go, maybe he's actually going to double back. Maybe I should commit going the original direction that I heard. So now the survivors have something. They have some semblance of information, as small as it is. They have something. But the spirit still completely controls where she puts that audio and all that stuff. And basically, you just have to think about where the audio is going to be for every tile. Now, there are some adjustments you're going to have to make as spirit. For example, if you're at shack, you can't really phase shack anymore, okay? If you have, your pallet here, and then you got your window here, and then you got your entrance here. If someone drops this god pallet, you can't fake it anymore. You can't go around the entire shack and then go and hit them because, they're just obviously going to be able to tell that you're going around the shack, and there's no way you can trick the audio. There's no like skinny wall where it's going to be very unclear where you are. You have to go around this entire thing, so it's going to be really clear that you're entering through the shack. So spirits have to do something very different now. And I know a lot of spirit players are not familiar with this hidden technique, but it's something that I've mastered on spirit that really helps a lot more than you think. So spirit can actually do this thing where she presses spacebar and just fucking breaks pallets, and then you just catch up anyway because you move at massive amounts of speed. So you have to change a couple of things. Structures like Shack, you will actually have to kick the pallet now. Don't bother trying to mind game it because they will be able to tell. I would say long wall jungle gyms as well. It is possible because the actual wall itself on the long wall jungle gym. So you've got the window right here, and then you've got, this part, and then this part. This is a very crude drawing, but you got the pallet right here, right? So if the survivor is on this side and you're on this side, again, you can do this thing where if you're going left or right in this skinny little area, it's almost impossible to tell which way you're going. So this is the area you can play as Huntress, but you can't play, for example, phasing from here into here because now they'll be able to hear that. So depending on where you are in the actual loop, you can actually play the pallet, or again, you can just kick it. I think people really don't understand how much faster spirit runs than everybody, and that's without add-ons. If you have charge speed add-ons or movement add-ons, it's even easier to do this. It's even like Mother's Daughter's Ring, which wasn't nerfed, I don't even think. So I'm actually curious, if you could literally see the spirit, would it even matter on a lot of these loops? Because she still goes so much faster. She can run around the loop an entire time before you can get around halfway. So I feel like in a lot of loops it wouldn't matter. Now, this is the one thing that does sort of counter that. So say you have, let's go back to that first loop right here where we got this, and then we've got the pallet, and then we've got this loop right here. So now we've got this scenario, spirits here, survivors here. So there's one thing the survivor can do is basically when the spirit starts going this way, survivor here is right, survivor can stay at the pallet and maybe try to slow vol it or stand there. And that's probably the safest thing the survivor can do now in that scenario, because the spirit won't be really 100% clear. If the survivor's injured, he's fucked. You'll be able to hear it clear as day. But if the survivor's not injured or they have iron will and the spirit goes this way and they get that information, basically the survivor is forced to play the pallet, because they're not just going to be able to run away. The spirit's going to catch up to them. So they're kind of forced to play the 50-50 on the pallet. And that's actually how competitive players play against spirit. That's why they drop all the pallets almost immediately when they get to them. Obviously, their team can finish the game quick enough for that not to be a problem, but in every other game, it's not going to work. But the reason they do that is because it's the only way to also force the spirit to guess, because now the spirit has to guess which side of the pallet that you're actually on. And that's sort of what the survivors have to do, even more now. But I do really like that you can condition people with your audio and push them in a direction and then double back faster than they can react, because obviously you can react faster than they can because you're controlling the spirit. You control the direction switch, and the lagged audio transition, it's so much more in the spirit's favor. So you can actually still do almost everything you can with the old spirit, with the new spirit. There's just a couple more pallets that you have to actually kick, which, oh no, you have to obey some of the game mechanics. Poor spirit. You want to ignore every mechanic, go play Nurse. She's the ignore mechanic skiller. But spirit will have to kick a couple of pallets. Even then, though, there are add-ons now that replenish your power entirely when you kick pallets. There are add-ons that replenish your power when you get stunned by pallets. It seems like there's a lot more synergy with pallets that Spirit actually has now that we're supposed to start to play around, and I think that is what you need to do to maintain her current strength. I still think she's the second best killer in the game, easily. Maybe Blight is now the second best, only because he didn't get nerfed for some reason. None of Alchemist Ring, Compound 33, Blighted Curl, somehow all of that evaded the nerf hammer, which is incredible to me. But I still think Spirit is incredibly good, and I had zero issues the entire time playing on the PTB for 3 days straight. Now, I understand PTB players, there's probably not even any matchmaking, so it's not really, indicative of the absolute highest skill, but there is still not that much you can do against her. But survivors now have the opportunity to kind of try to make a read on the spirit as the spirit is trying to control the mind game. And that is what I love. That's the most important part, is that survivors have some information now to try to work with it, even though it's still mostly in the spirit's control. And that's why I'm so happy with the spirit change, because I genuinely don't really feel guilty playing her anymore. Even when I would ask people in post-game chat, they felt like it was fair. Even if they all died, they still felt like it was more fair. So that's the part I'm really excited about. And so yeah, you'll have to adjust your playstyle a little bit of spirit, but you can use your audio to condition people to go where you want. And that's the skill that you're going to have to learn if you're used to just doing, cheesy stuff like the standstill mind game and stuff. I think it's a lot of fun doing that. So that is it, guys. My pizza is probably burnt. Fuck.